Hello, I'm Dr. Bossing. This is another video for our English 111 course, and I just wanted to check in briefly. I promise this will be a shorter video. I hope it is. I just wanted to check in because this is a big week for y'all. You're working on your final drafts of paper number 1, and that means that sometime between now and next weekend, when the deadline for the paper is, you're going to be cursing your English teacher for making you write a paper and get it in by the deadline. And that's me. I'm the person you'll be cursing at some point this week. So hello, thanks for that. The other thing is, I want you to know that there's a human being that will be reading your paper. That I'm your audience, basically, for this paper. Hopefully, I'm not the only audience. Hopefully, there's someone else who looks at your draft between now and when you turn in the draft that will be graded and evaluated, right? So whoever that is, I'm hoping it'll be someone in the Individualized Learning Center or someone in the Virtual Real Center, and there's links in this week's folder for both of those places. Or if it's just a roommate or your aunt who teaches high school English or whoever that can read through your paper, see if it makes sense to them, right? Because you've been living with this paper for a few weeks now. And that puts you in a difficult position when you're revising and editing and proofreading your paper, right? You know what you think it says. But someone who hasn't been living with those ideas and those words might have a different take. And so it's worth finding someone to give you some feedback before I give you feedback, but it's attached to a letter grade, right? The other thing I wanted to mention is I know that you'll turn your paper in Saturday night, although I encourage you to turn it in early. The earlier you get it to me this week, the quicker you'll get a grade and feedback back from me, right? And I know the impulse is to turn that sucker in after cursing me for making you write this paper, and then start checking Blackboard and email to see what the grade is and what the feedback is. And I wish it were that simple. I wish the next day I'd have all those papers graded and give you valuable feedback on it. But it's just me. And I've got about 100 English 111 papers coming in. And it takes me about between 20 and 30 minutes per paper. If it's a paper that has very few flaws, if it's an A paper, I can read and comment and evaluate that in about 20 minutes. If it's a paper that has some work that needs to be done, that needs extra feedback on where the problem areas are, that takes me about 30 minutes. So between 20 and 30, let's say 25 minutes per paper average times 100 students. That's a lot of work, right? Which means I can't have it back to you within 24 hours, right? I'm shooting for a week, 2 weeks maximum is my goal. But you just got to be patient. And I know that's hard because you've been working on this thing. You want feedback as soon as possible. And I would love to do that. But I don't have a Scanatron to run these papers through and automatically give you feedback on. My job would be way easier if I could do that, right? But I can't. But it's the part of this job that I take really seriously, right? Like, you don't get to be a better writer by accident. The effort and the insight has to come from you, but the feedback that will be useful for the next paper needs to come from me. So I do take my time, but it's worth my effort and it's worth your wait. I hope. I think it is. Look, I've been teaching college English classes for well over 20 years. I've read thousands of papers, right? So I have a pretty good handle on what works and what doesn't, what the standard should be and how to get there. So yes, when you get your grade back and it's not what you wanted, it's not what you expected, yeah, you're gonna curse me, right? I get that. That's part of the process. But hopefully you do something else beyond that, right? If you just stop at, oh, that bossing, he doesn't know anything, or that bossing hates me, he gave me a bad grade. I mean, I get the impulse, but it's not very useful for you, right? To just write it off. I think what would be more useful is to say, okay, maybe he knows something, maybe not. Let me look at his feedback and see if there's something in there that's useful that I can apply to the next paper, right? Because that's the goal, is to keep improving paper after paper, semester after semester. Yeah, I don't know you to dislike you. I respect the heck out of you because you're taking this class, maybe not under the greatest of circumstances, right? I would, if we were in class together 2 or 3 times a week and I could talk to you like this, face to face, in a group, then I would know you some. And I bet I'd like you. And I could definitely feel like together as a group, we can build on the writing skills. But this semester with an online course, a lot of it falls on you. And I know that's a tough job, a tough task that you've been kind of given, whether you wanted to be online or not. It's a tough task for all of us, right? So I hope you don't just go, if you get a grade that you don't like, and I get it, the grade is the most important feedback for you. For me, it's the other stuff. It's my comments and suggestions and identifying what's working and what's not working so great. That's the feedback I'm most interested in and takes me the most time because it's important. It's important to me and I hope it's important to you. But look, it is just my opinion. If you let your roommate read this paper because she got an A in this class last semester, or someone from the ILC Center, or your aunt who teaches high school English, and they all tell you, oh, that's a great paper. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe your college roommate's right. But if you think about it, I've probably have more experience grading college papers and knowing what works and what doesn't, basically because I'm an old teacher, right? Gray hair, right? But that experience is worth something. And if you think about it, your aunt and your roommate, they love you and they want you to feel good about yourself. So they're going to say it's great. And maybe they think it's great. Maybe it is great. My number one priority, I hate to say this, isn't your feelings, but it's to make you a better writer. And so I'm going to give you my honest opinion, just an opinion, but I'm going to follow that up with suggestions. To me, that's what my role is. And hopefully I can make you feel better, because hopefully it's an A paper and I'll be like, you rock. You wrote an A paper on the very first shot in your college English class. But long term, I hope to make you feel better about yourself as a writer and the work you do for college English classes and every other class by helping you develop some skills that will make the work that you produce better. To me, that's long term making you feel better, not like telling you something you want to hear. Anyway, okay, I'm done with that. And I've got to keep this short. So let me get to the screen here. This is our week 5 lessons folder. And when you open it up, I assume you've opened it up because you're watching this video, you'll see that I'm leaving you alone in a way. I'm giving you lots of resources this week and letting you work through it on your own. Basically, I'm just saying, here's resources that you can use in the revision and editing and proofreading process. And I'm backing off until the end of the week, right? The bottom of this file where I'm asking you to turn in your final draft of your paper. But everything else is just links like to the Individualized Learning Center or the Real Center, and to remind you that I have office hours this week that I can ask kind of specific questions. I'm not going to have time to give you detailed feedback on your paper, frankly, right? But I can answer kind of specific targeted questions about issues you might be having with your rough draft. And certainly the ILC and the Real Center can do the same. But a lot of this will be on you. Use these resources if it makes sense. If not, move on. There's several links to handouts, right? So if you just click on stuff, you'll see, oh, look, it's this handout from the UNC Writing Center, and it's basically walking you through the editing process, right? And the kind of specific issues you want to be looking for. And that's good stuff. If we were in class, we'd be going through that together as a group, kind of one step at a time. And since we're completely online and you're working on your own time in your own place, I'm trying to just give you the same resources we'd be using in class, including this paper 1 self-review. And basically, instead of doing a peer review, because we're not getting together as a group, I just wanted to show you what this looks like and encourage you. You don't have to fill this out and turn it in for a grade. This is just a resource for you to use or ignore. It's your call. But this is the one thing in this week's folder that I encourage you to spend some time with. Sit down with your rough draft and literally just go step by step through this. This is probably the best use of your time because it basically just is a structured way of going through your draft, starting with the big picture, right? Starting with, does the content make sense? And then breaking it down into paragraphs, and then breaking it down into sentence level proofreading issues, and then finally just checking like MLA format. Am I doing what's asked of me, right? So I put this document in this week's folder because I think it's super useful, because it basically gives you a script to follow in your process of working through this. And literally, I would just, here's an example. This is a second example of a pretty successful paper. It's also in our paper 1 assignments folder, right? And literally you could sit down and just like make sure when you're doing the kind of overall review of your draft, just make sure that it's set up in MLA format, right? It's got this information at the beginning on page 1, right? That it's got a title that's not personal narrative or paper number 1, that it's got something kind of interesting to say because you have something interesting to say. You've spent weeks working this personal experience into a personal narrative essay. It's worth a good title. And it's worth you spending a little bit more time to polish it up, make it the best you can make it a great first impression of a paper that you're turning into me. And then just go paragraph by paragraph, right? Does the introduction do what introductions are supposed to do, right? Does it have a clear thesis statement? Middle school soon became a toxic environment where I felt unappreciated by my classmates. I always felt disconnected from what was going on at hand. Later on, I found that my troubling time in middle school would come to affect me in my later years. That's interesting, man. It tells me something about that status of being other or being the outsider, and it kind of gives me a hint of the theme of this paper, which is that this person's still dealing with the after effects, the consequences of being othered, even though it was those 3 years of middle school a long time ago. That stuff just doesn't disappear, right? And which is one reason I wanted to put this as an example. The other reason is it's really clearly organized, right? Because it's a paper about middle school, the first body paragraph's about the beginning of middle school, right? That first year. And then the next year. And then 8th grade, right? So it's real clear chronological order, 1 school year per body paragraph. Really nice organization. And then a really healthy conclusion, right? This writer saved most of the reflection for this last paragraph, telling me not just what happened, but why it's important, right? So a lot of good stuff here, including this, right? Adding a nice quote from Dr. Cevallos' website about othering and about otherness, and connecting to that concept, and then finishing it up with literally why this matters, why this is important. Right? Every day I continue to learn and develop with the hope of becoming a better person in the future. Always in the back of my mind. Yeah, this meant something to the writer, which means it meant something to me as the reader, right? So this has a lot working for it. It also has a nice works cited page. And again, remember, there's example works cited page in the paper one folder, and basically this person just copy and pasted what I left in that set of examples, right? Because it matches up. Since he quoted from Dr. Cevallos, you have to have on the works cited page the information about that reference, right? It's a nice healthy length. It's in 12-point font, New Times Roman font. It's all good. That's kind of what you're looking for. And the other thing is you might spend a little bit of time going back over the grading rubric. I'm not going to talk about it because I talked about it too much last time. But look, it's worth noting, again, these are the things that I'll be sitting down on those 25 or 30 minutes. These are the criteria. These are the specific areas of your paper I'm going to be focusing on. So when you're going through your rough draft the last time and proofreading it and making it the perfect final draft, or as close to perfect as you can get, go through that criteria. That's, like what I'm looking for, right? And again, you want to be over here. You want as much of that 100% of those points for each category as you can get. Look, if you've got questions, shoot me an email. Send me a text or a call during office hours this week. Look, I know you've been working hard on this paper. At least I hope you've been working hard on this paper. You're close to being done, but it's worth a little more effort to take what's a good rough draft and make it a spectacular final draft. That's what I'm hoping. And I know I'm asking a lot of you. That's why I'm kind of leaving you alone this week in terms of stuff you have to turn in. But don't just take the week off, right? Spend some time and effort on this paper. It'll be worth it. I promise you. Look, work hard, be kind, and good luck with the paper. I'll see you back here soon. All right. Take care.